We are working on question 2 on the worksheet for section 14.2, so talking about those fairness criteria. So we've got this example here. We've got a vote is cast to decide the class president in some particular school. The candidates, we've got Victor, which we have a V, Tanya is a T, Paul is a P, and Chloe is a C, and we can see all the ballots recorded in our preference table down here. So we're going to go through these questions one by one, and at the end we'll get to take a look at those new fairness criteria that we've been learning. So first off, answering how many total votes were cast. We can remember that the vote totals are listed here across the top. That's how many votes there were for each of those different ballots. So then we can add those up to get the total. So 30 plus 50 plus 58 plus 60 plus 90 is going to be our vote total. So we can grab our calculator and take a look at what that's going to be. So 30 and 50, 58, 60, and 90 gives us 288 total. So then the question that's next is how many first place votes are needed for majority. So remember, majority means more than half. So we'll take that 288 and divide it by 2, which 288 divided by 2 is 144. But then remember, we need more than half, so we would need at least 145 to have majority. So more than that halfway mark. So then our question is, did any candidate get majority, meaning majority of first choice votes? So let's look at how many first choice votes each candidate got. So we can see that V there's 30 first choice votes in the first column. He's also first choice on the second column, so that's another 50. And that's it for him, so that's a total of 80. And then T is first choice for 58 in this second column here. And then we can see nowhere else. P has 60 and C has 90. So looking at those, did anyone get at least 45? Well, no one did. So no one got a majority of first choice votes in this example. So after majority, then the next thing we can take a look at is who would the winner be with the plurality method. So the plurality method also looks at first choice votes. So we'll again look at these numbers of first choice votes, and this time we don't care what percentage they have, so they don't have to have over half. We just look for who has the most. So C has the most first choice votes. They had 90, which was more than anybody else. The next closest was 80. So C would be the winner there under plurality method. So what we look at next is plurality with runoff. So remember, with plurality with runoff, we first check if anyone automatically wins in the beginning because of having majority. But we already answered the question that no one had majority. So we saw that was C, that no candidate had majority. So eliminate. We're going to eliminate all but the top 2. So looking again, we have V had 80, T had 58, P had 60 votes, and C had 90 votes. We're going to eliminate everybody except the top 2. So we're going to eliminate T and we're going to eliminate P. So then we run that runoff between the top 2. So that would be against V versus C, basically. And we're going to go row by row and we'll award those totals. I'm actually just going to choose to write that the other way. So we'll do V and C. So in the first column, remember, we're just looking at who's preferred. So V versus C, we see that V is preferred, so they get 30 votes. In the second column, V versus C, again, V is preferred, so they get 50 votes. In the next one, V versus C, again, V is preferred, so V gets those 58. In the next column, again, V is preferred to C, so they get the 60. And in the last column, we've got V versus C. C is preferred, so C gets 90. So then, even without adding them up, we can clearly see then that V got more of those votes. If we do add it, 30 and 50, we've got 80, with 60 is another 140, so we're at 198. Would be our totals for V. So then we would say that V wins in plurality with runoff. Let me just clean up our table quick so that we can take a look at our next one. So do remember, if you do end up with someone who has majority in the beginning, you don't do the runoff election. You just automatically elect that person the winner. We then want to figure out who's the winner with board account. So we're going to take a look at that one. Let me actually see if I can go ahead here and copy this table down below so that we can keep referencing it. We'll just scroll. I don't know how to do it on this mode, but that's okay. So remember, board account, then we're looking at points. So we would award 0 points for 4th place, and then we would have 1 point, 2 points, and 3 points then for our highest place. So start at 0 and work our way to the top. And then we're going to go candidate by candidate and award those points out. So we can start off with, say, V and figure out how many points they get. They are in first place in the top column, which is worth 3 points. So that's times 30 votes. So they get 3 points times 30. And then in the next one, they're also in first choice, so they get those 3 points times 50 votes. And then they drop down to second place, which is worth 2 points for 58 votes, so 2 times 58. And then second place again for 60 votes would be another 2 points times 60. And then in the third one, they're in the last place, so they get 0 points times, that would be 90 votes. And we'll need to add all those up. Let me grab our calculator here quick. So we've got 3 times 30 plus 3 times 50 plus 2 times 58 plus 2 times 60 plus 0 times 90 gives us 476 points for V. We can go ahead and do anybody next, but I'll just pick T. So T is in second place in the first column, so 2 points times 30. They're in second place again in the second column, so 2 points times 50. And then they jump to first place, so 3 points times 58. And then they are in third place, so 1 point times the 60 in that fourth column. And then again, they're in third place, so 1 point times 90. So we've got 2 times 30, 2 times 50, 3 times 58, 1 times 60, and 1 times 90, which is just 90. Gives us 484. So then we can say do P scroll up enough here. P is in third place in the first column. That was worth 1 point. And then if we can remember, the first column was worth 30 votes. They're then in last place in the second column, so 0 times that column was worth 50. They then go to second place. Oh, no, sorry, third place here. So 1 point times 58. And then P jumps to first, so 3 points times 60. And then they jump to second place, so 2 points times 90. So 1 times 30, we got 30. 0 times 50 is just 0, and then 1 times 58, so plus 58, plus 3 times 90, plus 2 times, or sorry, what did I do? 3 times 60 is what I meant to do. Let's see if I can clear it or not. Well, we'll just start again. 30 and 58, and then 3 times 9, or 3 times 60. Let's not make the same mistake again. And then 2 times 90 is 448. And then we've got C last. C's in last in the first one, so that's 0 times, the first one was 30 points, or 30 votes. Then they jump to third place, so 1 times 50. And then they're in last again, so 0 times 58. And then last again, so 0 times 60. And then they jump to first, so 1 times 90. So they got 0 times 30 is 0. They got 50 for column 2, and then 0 in column 3, 0 in column 4, and then 90. Sorry, 3 times 90. I gotta fix that on the other one. So 90 times 3. So we've got 320 there. I'll fix my 1 here, should be a 3. 3 points for being in first place. So that 3 times 90 was the 270, and then plus the 58 gives us, or sorry, plus the 50 gives us 320. So then we're looking at who has the most. So we would see then that T has the most points. So T wins with the most points, which in this case ended up being 484. All right, then we need to take a look at pairwise comparison method. So let's take a look at all of our pairs that we need. Let's have V versus all the different people. So we'll need V versus T. Remember, we've got 4 candidates, so we're going to have 6 comparisons. So let's see, V versus T, V versus P, V versus C are the 3 that V will be in. Then we can say, look at the rest that T will be in. So say T versus, we already did versus V, so then we can do P, and T versus C. Then the last one we need is P versus C. And we're going to need those point totals. I'm going to pause the video real quick and copy that table down here so that we don't have to keep scrolling up. So I'll pause real quick and then we'll come back on. All right, so I was able to get that table copied down here. So now we can just take a look at these pairwise comparisons. So let's take a look at V and T. So in the first column, we've got V versus T. So we look at who's preferred. V is preferred, so V gets 30. And then V versus T in the second one, V is also preferred, so they get 50. And then looking at V and T, we've now got T is preferred, so T gets 58. Looking at V and T in the third one, we see V is preferred, so they get 60. And then V and T is preferred, so T gets 90. So T has 148 versus V has, let's see, 140. So T wins that head-to-head comparison. So over here, when we keep track of our points, we've got V, T, P, and C. T won 1 point. So then we can do V versus P. So now we'll look at V and P. We see V's preferred in the first column, they get 30. And then V and P in the second. V is preferred, so V gets 50. And then V and P, V gets 58. And then P is preferred in the fourth column, so they get 60. And then V versus P in the fourth column, P is preferred, so they get 90. So P got 150 versus 138. So P was preferred there. So P is going to get 1 point for winning that head-to-head. And then we can take a look at V versus C. So V and C. V is preferred, V gets 30. V and C, V is preferred, so they get 50. V versus C in the third, V gets 58. V versus C in the fourth, V gets 60. And then in the last one, V versus C, C gets 90. So 90 versus 198, we see that V will be the winner there. So V gets 1 point. Now we've got 3 more to do. So we'll take a look at T versus P. So T and P, we can mark all those. So then we see in the first column, we've got T is preferred, so T gets 30. And the second one, T is preferred again, so they get 50. And then again, T, so they get 58. And then P comes in with 60, and then P with 90. So P has 150 versus 138 for T, so P would be the winner here. Now we can do T and C. So let me mark all our T's and C's. So T versus C in the first column, T gets 30 since they're on top, and then they also get the 50. They also get the 58. T is preferred to C in the fourth, so they get 60. And then C is preferred in the last, so they get 90. So that in total then gives T 198, which makes T the winner there. And then last one, we can do C and P. So P versus C, we see that P is preferred to C for 30. And then C is preferred to P for 50. And then P preferred to C for 58. And then P is preferred to C for 60. And then C is preferred to P for 90. So C gets 140. P, though, then gets 148. So P is the winner there. Then looking at who got the most points, we see that P has the most points. They won the most head-to-heads, so P wins in our head-to-head comparison. So now what we get to take a look at is the last couple questions that are asking us about our fairness criteria. So the one says, was any candidate preferred in each head-to-head comparison that they were in? So looking at this part above, we can take a look at, did anyone win all of their head-to-heads? And what we can see is P won 3 points. They won versus V, they won versus T, and they won versus C. That was all of the head-to-heads that P was a part of. So yes, P did. Notice they were only in 3 head-to-heads and they won all 3 of them. So then the next question asks, is the head-to-head criterion violated by any of the methods, meaning the voting methods that we did above? Now notice we actually did have this candidate that won every head-to-head comparison they were in. So what we should have then to satisfy the criterion is P should be the winner if we're going to satisfy the criterion. So P won all head-to-heads. So this head-to-head criterion says P should win. So now what we're going to do is look at all the different methods we did and see whether or not P was the winner. So if we go back and look at all the different methods, the first one we did was plurality. And then we see in plurality that C was the winner, which was not P. So plurality violates the head-to-head criteria in this example because C won instead of P. Let's look at the other ones. And we'll see that with plurality with runoff, V won, and with board account, T won. So those ones also both violate this head-to-head criterion. So plurality with runoff violates as well because, let's see, I forgot who won. V did. V won instead of P. And then board account violates it too because I think in that one T won. Yep. Instead of P. Then in our last method was pairwise comparison. In pairwise comparison, P did win. So pairwise comparison satisfies the head-to-head criterion because P won. So we see all these different examples. So if the head-to-head criterion in this example says that P should win because they satisfy that condition of having won all of their head-to-heads. So anyone that doesn't elect them, the winner, is in violation of the criterion, versus if they do elect that person the winner, then they satisfy the criterion. So then we can ask the same question about the majority criterion. So let's look back up. Remember, for the majority criterion, we're asking, does any candidate have majority? Which we answered that earlier in part C. In part C, we said, did any candidate get majority? And we saw that no candidate had majority. So if we think about what majority criterion says, it says if there is a candidate that has majority, then we should elect that candidate the winner. However, no one had majority, so no candidate had majority of first choice votes. So what that means is that every method satisfies it, because basically the criterion does not indicate who it thinks should win. So it doesn't matter who wins, because there's no way to violate this criterion. So every method satisfies the majority criterion. So remember, that's the other way to satisfy the majority criterion, is if the type of person that it's saying should be elected just doesn't exist in that example. So every method satisfies the majority criterion in this example. So sometimes that's a little bit of a tricky one to remember, but kind of think about it as the idea that the only way to violate the criteria is to fail to elect the person that it says should be the winner. So because it doesn't declare who should be the winner, we can't violate it. There's no way to kind of have an issue with that fairness criteria. So this is a way to satisfy the fairness criteria as well, is to just not have that person that they were discussing. So this is a good question where we kind of get to do all the things. We got to review all of our different things we learned from section 14.1, and we now got to look at these questions from section 14.2 with this one example of a preference ballot.